Namaskar to all of you. Thank you so much, especially youngsters who are here to be aspirants and to be graduates and so on. I will keep this a little brief. This afternoon, the idea of inviting Professor Mavalankar, Mr. Mavalankar, industry professional Mukund, or a person who is today a development activist, the idea of inviting him was to see that he shares with you some of those hard on ground insights into how they got together a small, powerful team of professionals or activists or concerned citizens or whatever you want to call them, and brought impact in Pune on river revival as well as on the riverfront development program that the Pune Municipal Corporation had taken up. Basically, Mukherjee is an IIT Kanpur who went to the University of Massachusetts for his master's. He did his early schooling in Ahmedabad. But then he worked for a long time in industry. Bharat Forge and him were almost like synonymous. He spent a long time there. Before that, he was with BPL, one old company which was Bangalore based. So he's basically an industry person, an engineer who is in his late years now, in the last, say, 15 years or so, been driving some of these public causes based in Pune. All I want to say is that the riverfront development project was an impending disaster in Pune. And you will hear him tell you the story of how they took it up, talked to people, to residents, to families, individually. How did they go about mobilizing therefore people? What did they do to do that in a way that you can learn how to do it in some mohalla that you're saying in today? How can you take neighborhood action, galvanize people for a lake in your city or in your area, or for something else that you know is wrong, that should not be happening in your city and yet is happening? What can you do to put together people and galvanize action? This is essentially what I am hoping to learn from Mukundji's, I won't say presentation, like he said at the beginning of this conversation. He said, let's keep it interactive. So back to you, Mukundji. I would request you to take the platform. I'll request you to see if that's possible to have people, the participants here, to talk to you, to ask you questions, even as you're speaking. Over to you. Take the platform now. The floor is yours, Mohanji.
Namaskar to all of you. And I'm very happy to be here talking to a young group of designers, architects, and planners. It is very essential that we get connected with the younger generation. I worked in a manufacturing profession for 42 years and really used technology to enhance manufacturing. But in the year 2019, I decided to retire mainly to address my focus to social causes. Firstly, I started working on climate change. Climate change, one issue you will hear time and again. It requires work to be done by all of us, and it requires work to be done on a war footing. So this was essentially what I started my retirement with. I worked on transforming people's mind and mindsets so that they can start using, first, reducing their energy requirements, then start using renewable energy wherever possible. Because that is the only way we can sustain our lifestyles. Our lifestyles have changed so much and we require so much energy that it is impossible if we get it from fossil fuels. The only reason of climate change is increased carbon dioxide emissions. Today, emissions of carbon dioxide is causing what is called as global warming. So when I became aware of this, I first put into my practice that how can I reduce my carbon footprint? And then 12 years ago, after reducing my carbon footprint, I started to find out how I can use it from the primary source, whatever energy is little required, I can use from the primary source, that is the solar energy. While doing this, I also saw that every city is having the problem of water and started addressing. So first, I would like to tell you that my house and the plot on which my house is built, no rainwater goes outside. So I have done rainwater harvesting in my own house, and it is so easy to implement in each house than I did for many societies, so that the water which comes to us through rain is sequestered in the ground, thus increase in the ground level water. And it is not very costly. It is very easy to do. It just takes a few thousand rupees for a house and a few 100,000 rupees for a larger apartment society. And we can easily do that, but none of us do it. Why? Because we don't understand, because we think that the water comes from the tap. All the water that comes from the tap finally comes from the rain. Somewhere the rainwater has to be stored and then distributed without wasting. And what we find is that this management, water management, is not done properly. So rainwater harvesting is one good way of sequestering water, storing water, either underground, which is called recharge, or store and use. Secondly, our urban lifestyles have changed so much that we have started assuming that 24 hours running water is our given birthright. And the showers are becoming bigger and bigger. I mean, the shower head that we use. And that is one thing. It's very funny. The shower head in my bathroom is 100 millimeters diameter. In my son-in-law's bathroom, it is 300 millimeters by 300 millimeters. And in my grandson's bathroom, it is 600 millimeters by 600 millimeters. This is how things have changed. And this is how we waste water. So all of us need to start from understanding what is our requirement for water every day. Even though every municipality plans for a water supply of 200 liters, between 150 liters to 200 liters per capita, how much are we using? I started calculating what I'm doing, and that is how we started explaining to people. I measured how much time I keep the shower on and how much time I take to take my bath. And I reduced my water requirement while taking a shower from 60 liters to 30 liters to 15 liters. And now I use a shower, I take a shower every day with 4 liters of water. My ultimate goal is to reach 2 liters. And each of us can definitely practice this. The second thing, as a part of getting connected to the source of water, what we did in Pune, we have an NGO called Jeevit Nadi. That means the living river. This organization was started in 2016, and we started getting people to get connected with the river. Initially, we started work for cleaning the river. Then we started understanding what are the problems with our river. Pune is fortunate to have 5 rivers and 7 dams within 30 kilometers of Pune. So there are 5 actually rivers flowing through Pune. And these 5 also have subsidiaries and natural streams. In spite of that, in spite of so many rivers, we are still having a water crisis, which is serious. Why are we having this water crisis? So when we looked at that, we realized that unplanned and over urbanization was one of the aspects, because the topology of Pune is like a saucer shape. We have hills from 3 sides and the water flows out from the south. The catchment area of Pune fortunately has the hilltops. You have water, annual rainfall of about 6,000 millimeters. If you, that is at the catchment area. In Pune, the rainfall is 800 millimeters per year. In spite of that, why are we having a problem? Because we have not managed our water resources. So when we took people to the river, we studied and we took the people, first got connected to the river which was near their housing, and we asked people to adopt 1 kilometer of river. So they started getting a feeling for that. What are the plants there? What is the flora there? What is the fauna there? How the river flows in 12 months? What we can do? And and to our surprise, some of the groups found that in their stretch of river there are some uh, what is called as live streams, but those streams were blocked because of sewage and solid waste flowing into the riverbed. So we started people to clean that, and to our surprise, when we cleaned, we found a source of water flowing through, and that is almost 12 months. And the beauty of that is that stream had drinkable water. And today, another thing, the biggest problem with our water resource is we do not manage. The way we don't manage our water resources, we don't manage our waste. For example, in Pune today, we generate almost 1,600 million liters of wastewater. This, if we go by the population of 7.2 million, 72 lakhs, multiplied by 200 liters is the amount of water that is supplied to each individual, multiplied by 80%. 80% of the water supply, fresh water supply, gets converted into sewage. So 1,600 million liters of water we are putting into the river every day, out of which only 30%, that is 430 liters, a million liters, is treated. And this is the reason for the crisis of water. Secondly, of course, we have a global issue of climate change, and that climate change is affecting the weather in each city in a different way. It is estimated that Pune, the rainfall is going to increase by almost 40%. This is according to a TERI report. When we studied that and when we realized that the rainfall is going to increase, however, the number of rainy days are going to reduce by 18%. So we are going to have a situation of flood during the monsoon months and drought during the summer and the dry months. So we started making people aware of this. At that time, we were suddenly hit by a crisis, and that was called riverfront development. It was a planned crisis, and it was a blow to the work that we were doing of reviving a almost dead river. So our organization started working to find out the details of this project. and we started asking questions, putting RTIs, finding out, getting into the details, which normally we don't do. We accept that the projects implemented or started by the municipal corporation or the state government uh, or the central government are for the benefit of the people. And what we found that they were for the benefit. This particular project, which was to beautify the 44-kilometer banks of Pune River, uh, was only for the benefit of the contractors, not for the benefit of local populace. So we started getting people together, talking about it, asking questions, getting information, and quite often we were banging our head on a dead wall. However, we have pursued in the last 2-3 years. We started a chain fast. Every individual fast for the river 24 hours, and so that he or she knows that there is a problem and I'm trying to address it. And every time he or she fasts, at the end of the day, they take a picture with a placard showing why he or she is fasting for 24 hours. And that picture is emailed to the Prime Minister, to the Chief Minister, to the State Environment Minister, and to 5 officials of the Pune Municipal Corporation who's implementing this project. It is very important, and I must stress this, that each of us have a responsibility, and as a society, as a member of the society, as the person who receives benefit from the society and the social infrastructure, that we ask questions. Why this project? What is the motive? Are the numbers correct? And fortunately for us, we had two, three good uh, architects with us, and especially one of them, architect Sarang Yadwadkar. He went through the detailed project report of this project, which is to beautify the banks of the river, and he found out 18 different points which were completely false. In the sense, false data was provided at 18 places to get environmental clearance. So we must ask this, that how the environmental clearance comes, why this, what was the input given for the environmental clearance? And as a citizen, it was our duty. So we made these officials and the bureaucrats aware. And after 2.5 years of struggle, previously they just refused to accept. No, environmental clearance given. You environmentalists are unnecessarily are against development. And when we said we are not against development, so some of our uh, town planners and city planners started working, providing a solution. So we are not only pointing out a problem, but we worked out a solution, which is a sustainable river rejuvenation plan. And that we submitted. And when we submitted that, Pune Ecological Society also submitted a plan, very detailed plan. And we showed to the administration that the same river revival can be done with 1/5 of the expense which the current project. So now finally the state impact assessment agency has detailed in its report and withheld the environmental clearance and said that you please answer all these 18 questions raised by the citizens. Only then can you proceed with the project. So this is how each individual has to contribute, and we have to all work together to not only point out the problem, but provide an alternate solution. So I would encourage Professor Rachna and her students that they should go out in the field, look at the water resources, look at the plan for water resources, look at not only today, but for the next 10 years, and then address those problems on a policy level and on an individual level. Each one of us has to conserve our resources and then give a solution to make water resource management answerable, the municipality or the metropolitan organization, and force them to make a plan, which normally they don't do. And if there is a plan, that only remains in the books. So we have to dig out facts. Is there a plan? What are the different issues with that plan? And fortunately for us, we have a good tool called right to information. Each one of us has the right to ask questions to the government, and the government officers are bound to give an answer within 15 days. I would stop what I'm speaking right now and ask the faculty and the students to ask some questions. Then I can explain further.
Anyone in the faculty who wants to speak?
Rachana, Professor Rachana, you're muted.
Yes, sir. So basically, I wanted to ask that there are some kind of plants also which can reduce odor. Like that was a very good, nice thing that you did revival of the river, and it's like rejuvenation of that area. So maybe that can be a riverfront development is a very good idea. But actually, how effective are the plants that can be used? There are some plants which reduce the odor and all, like from sewage.
Mukundji, are you there? I wonder if we lost him.
Yes, sorry. See, the river has certain natural rights, the way we also have rights. So this year, our campaign, we are addressing the rights of the river. So we as individuals have our rights of freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of religion. Similarly, the river's rights are the river should flow. We should not stop the flow of rivers. So that is the first right. Second right is river should never be adulterated with effluents and with sewage. That is the second right. Third right is like each of us have a property. That property is shown on a map. Similarly, the flow of river, the width of river has a boundaries. Those boundaries are defined traditionally by a 25-year flood event or a 100-year flood event. These two boundaries is the property of the river, and they should not be encroached upon. So as a planner, we can ask, and actually according to the law, the 25-year boundary, which is called the blue line, the amount of water that can flow through the river in a 25-year flood event, no construction is allowed to take place within these blue lines. So if we see something that is being constructed, we should say that this is illegal, wrong, and maybe file a complaint. Then the red line is the 100-year flood event. Okay. What happens if you reduce this and grab the land on both sides? the flood water level is going to increase. And when the flood water level goes to increase, it goes to other areas and affects housing, especially the low income, low level housing. So we must find out and not allow these boundaries to be encroached upon.
Yeah, only basically we can add recreational open urban spaces so that they can be used as the riverfront can be used as a recreational space and it can be landscaped
Do
well.
we want clean water first or do we want recreation first? That is the issue. Are we going to have food malls on both banks of river, or are we going to have riparian woodlands along the river? See what happens, at least the rivers which are not perennial. Okay, the water comes with the gushing force during the monsoon months and it flows through. When it comes, it brings lot of topsoil. And this topsoil, which comes from the mountains, is a very fertile soil.
Yes.
Okay, and if you have so much width of the river, almost 40% width of the river is where there is riparian woodlands. So the central canal of the river, the water flows fast, but on the banks of the river, the banks of the bed, the silt gets deposited.
Yes.
That's a very fertile soil. And that fertile soil is not for entertainment.
Yeah.
It's for trees to grow. And there are three levels of canopy. The tallest canopy, then the middle one, and then the small bushes and shrubs, which are sometimes amphibian. That means some part of the time they are in water. And this natural width of the river needs to be maintained. Within that width, we have started organizing every Sunday and every Saturday on river walks. We give explanation of the trees that are there, when they fruit, what kind of small animals and birds they provide food to.
Yeah, it's a good habitat for birds also, yes.
Yeah, it's a habit of our birds, habit of our small animals. So,
Yes.
so this ecosystem has taken in Pune's river 6 million years. So the river canal, which is defined in a basaltic rock of Pune, is 6 million years ago. Why do we want to break it? It is even older than the Himalayas. So what has our request has been, and many architects, planners have come forward to make nice walkways within that. We organize every month one walk for butterfly walk, it's called.
Yeah, it's a nature walk basically. Very beautiful ideas.
Walk,
yes.
and that is how we started getting people connected. That going to a food mall is not the right entertainment. Going to a butterfly park, walking through the natural or riparian woodlands, and looking at the trees, the birds, the animals, taking photo. We started organizing photographic competition.
Yeah.
The river also has history, and that history of Pune has culturally is such that we have built so many ghats on the river, or were built during the time of Shivaji and even prior to that. So how do we bring that back? That glory, that past, is what we are trying to achieve by individual citizen efforts.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from the students, planners, or to be planners? Let me see if I can pull out a sustainable development presentation that we have made. I'll try to share my screen now that this question has come up. Just a minute, there is some. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, yes, we can see it.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
so this was.
Yes, sir, we are able to see that.
Yeah, so this was one of the projects that we did of rejuvenating river bank in an urban context.
Request you to mute, please, whoever is speaking. Gatsari, please mute her, who is speaking. Please mute all.
Basically, है कि river.
Please mute all. Yeah. Yes, Mukund ji, please carry on. Thank you.
As a
Sorry for
part
the...
of Jeevit Nadi finding solutions, we did two projects spanning 1 kilometer of river each. And this was one of the projects done by a local organization called Woes. And basically, we took this particular stretch and defined what our strategic position is. Okay, what we want to conserve, what we want to regenerate, what we want to reform, what we want to restore, and what we want to retrofit. Okay, so we studied the flow of the river, and as I was telling you, the high flood line during the month of monsoon. Okay, in this 1 kilometer patch of so it's a snapshot of the 44 kilometers. And then we developed a master plan which will gel well with the flood lines as well as the existing residential houses and societies. Okay, how the walkways would be made, how the bridges would be made, how grasslands would be restored. These are some of the pictures of the river, the riparian woodlands that I was talking about. Okay, this is the beauty that will be lost if we use the riverfront development as is planned by the Pune Municipal Corporation. You can see the three levels of vegetation that I talked about, the top canopy, the middle canopy, and the bushes and shrubs around this area. We also studied river provides many services. So what are the services that are provided by the river? And how can we better those services without affecting the ecology of the river, without affecting the flora and fauna, rather increasing the biodiversity of the river. So, this river, this is what I was talking about. There are wet marshes in the river, the grasslands, the trees, the riparian woodlands on both sides, and they support a plethora of both aquatic, avian, and land-based animals. So how do we conserve? And what other services the river can provide? So for example, somebody had asked a question, how plants can treat the sewage. Normally, the tertiary treatment of the sewage has to be with vegetation and plants. Okay, so primary and the secondary treatment of sewage has to be done in a sewage treatment plant where 90% of basically in sewage is have fecal matter. So where primary and secondary sewage treatment plants address taking out 90% of the fecal matter and effluents from the sewage, and then the remaining sewage plants and uh, can be. And then we talked about some ghats which are already built and how we can revive them and build history by using light and sound shows, for example. How we can define walkways which are not cement concrete. We are not pouring any cement concrete. Today, the riverfront development project, which is given by the municipal corporation and approved and the work has started, is going to have 22 million square meters of construction within the riverbed. Now, this alternate plan is what we had prepared. I will just stop here and show you another plan that we had made. Just let me pull that out, which was ecologically prudent plan. I will share my screen again. Can you see my screen?
Yes, please. We can.
Yeah. So this was another NGO that was called Oikos. Oikos in Latin means ecology. Okay. So this Oikos studied 1 kilometer. Okay. This is the flow of rivers coming from Pune, from the mountains, from the Khadakwasla Lake into Pune. And just at the entry, 1 kilometer region was studied by Oikos, and we developed an alternate river revival plan. So the objective, we defined the objective. What is the objective? The river flows, meanders through the mountain, has lot of green canopy, birds, etc. And once we defined what our objective was, we looked at the benefits that the river provides as per the ecological services that the river provides. Lively open space, education and recreation, fresh air areas, clean waters without solid and liquid waste, reduce flood risk, and in an economical way, and re-establishing natural green canopy. So these are some of the benefits of the. Then we studied this whole detailed project report, which Oikos studied river as an ecosystem, ecological assessment of the biodiversity and the stakeholder analysis. And then finally, a restoration plan was made with a proposed design. So what is a river ecosystem? A river has its source in the mountains. Okay, when the rains fall, the water gets collected in catchment areas and that goes through the plains, and then ultimately at the mouth, it reaches the sea or ocean. What are the different characteristics of the river ecosystem? So as I told you that there are riparian forests and woodlands, the river never flows straight. River meanders and forms a course over hundreds of years. There are pools of water, there are rapids, there are riffles, there are grassy islands, and there are bedrock with potholes. So this is all uh, e- encompassing the whole ecosystem of the river. And the urban planners have to take into consideration all these aspects of river ecology. I will give you an example. I grew up in Ahmedabad, and in Ahmedabad there was a rich family, and uh, they wanted to have their have an architect, a French architect, to build their house. The same architect who had built the IIM structures. And so he said, I will design a house for you, but I have to come and stay in your house for 6 months. Then I can understand what are your requirements, how you use space, how you use different areas of the house. So similarly, we have to study a river before we come out with a plan. This is the riparian forest that I talked about. And a plethora of birds, insects, underground creatures use this area as their habitat. So if we destroy this and build cement concrete banks, we will be destroying biodiversity of the whole ecology of the river. And what is most damaging is this this ecological system has taken 6 million years to evolve. And that we will damage irreversibly. And that is why we started protesting against this. See how the river meanders in the natural course. And there are many such meanders in Pune's rivers. So we studied all this. How does it flow in summer? How does it flow in winter? How does it flow in what are the different insects in these small pools? Which birds, which aquatic beings are there? It took us 6 months to study this. See, there are the rocks, because of water erosion, have potholes, and each pothole is a ecosystem by itself and providing some ecological service. There are wetlands, which are very important. The wetlands are very important because they hold the soil. During the floods, they don't allow the soil to be washed away. So after studying this, we made an ecological assessment with a hydrological report. See, this is actually the river systems in Pune, as I was telling you. We have the Ambi River, we have the Moshi River, we have the Muta River, we have other 3 rivers which is ahead. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 dams in Pune's. So we studied all that. I mean, Oikos did. The present condition we looked at. This is bank, which is the left-hand bank of the river. This is the right-hand bank of the river. River is already to some extent channelized. And we want to revive from this end of the bank to that end, not by putting concrete here, not by building roads here, not by putting artificially manicured gardens here. We want to revive the river by bringing back this riparian woodland, which was also here, but it is badly damaged, to bring it back. And that is how we want to do the river revival. So we studied the current condition, the current width of the river as it flows through the city. In that 1 kilometer zone, this is the 30-meter channelized area where the actual width of the bank is 140 meters. Okay. So after studying this and making an ecological assessment, we came out with what does this river have? What does this river ecology has? It had wetlands, it had wet meadows, rocky areas, the channelized river, which is already channelized, the natural streams that I talked about. There are 25 natural streams flowing into the river, not the sewage streams. There are springs, which are underground springs. There are grassy areas. There are some historical temple complexes. And we studied this. We studied the current use of river and how the local population is using. This is a little detailed report. There are many goat herds who take their sheep to these grasslands. We studied the riparian vegetation along with the visitors that the riparian vegetation supports. The microhabitats, these are small areas where each area provides ecological function to a particular species of insect or birds or butterflies. We listed everything, the biodiversity that we observed for the period of 6 months. Then we did a stakeholder analysis. These are the stakeholders. So these are the stakeholders which have been the natural stakeholders, and these are all human stakeholders or human civilization-based stakeholders. Then we looked at the current development plan and the surrounding areas. So what is the municipality planning? Then we proposed a design. The design approach was that we facilitate the human river interaction, and we develop a rich ecosystems. So the biodiversity also increase and the human river interaction also increases. So what are the things that we plan? Respect red and blue lines, which I talked about. Restore physical structure which are damaged over many years. Restore biological structures and recreate citizens' access areas. Then we made a master plan. And what we said that 80% of the plan should address river restoration and 20% should address recreation. While in case of the plan that municipality is trying to force upon us is 80% is construction and only 4% is creation of recreation, is addressing the recreation. So we developed the whole plan, how to do it in this 1 kilometer zone. By respecting the blue lines, see, this is the width of the riverbed shown as a cross section. Okay, a very important riparian zone. Then there is wetland, then the rocky outcrops, the actual riverbed. This side again, wetland, streams and wetland. Okay, so we said that by minimal construction of platforms, we can make an area where people can observe nature and can participate in nature. So then actual plans were made of the cross section and how to do the river rejuvenation without affecting the cross section of the river. How the riverine habitats are to be developed and how to restore biological structures by some prudent planting and of trees of local species. Then recreate areas for people to access the river and re-establish the historical ghats on the river. So this is the model. We would not use cement concrete, some stone walkways of different types we can develop for making trails in the riverbed, some observation areas where people can come and do bird watching, take pictures, etc., etc. You can probably do fishing, but all using natural resources and natural structures. Okay, so this is the second study that we did, and I'll stop sharing. And we can go back to some of the questions. If I have been able to
Yes,
touch upon creativity of the students, because that is most important for me.
Right. One question from me before others, set off, Mukundji, if I may. What is the difference between traditional ghats and creation of such ghats and the riverfront development kind of projects? What is the difference? If I go to Benares, I see certain kinds of traditional ghats. You also mentioned it just now in Pune, and you'll see it in Nasik too.
Yeah, I'll answer that. Traditional ghats were built to commemorate some historical event or some festival, okay, where citizens needed to access the river. For example, in Pune, Ganpati Visarjan is a big event, and the Visarjan used to happen in the river. So ghats were built for providing a function or to commemorate an event. For example, the Ghorpade Ghat was built because Ghorpade, who was one of the nobles in Shivaji's this thing, he believed in a particular deity. So he built a ghat so that people could go down, have a bath, and then he built 2 temples of Shiv there. Okay. Today's river development is nothing but commercialization of the river banks. The only purpose is commerce. And that is what is detrimental. The only motive is the profit motive. And this is the biggest difference. In the olden days, where ghats were built by sardars and the prominent citizens of the city by using their own funds to provide access to the river. Today, our funds are used 80% to fill the pockets of the contractors.
Sure.
And subsequently providing food malls and other types of commercial activities.
Very true.
I hope I'm clear.
Anyone else, please?
Sorry? Have I answered your question, Dr. Hariharan?
Yes. Very well. Very insightful. I mean, they use their money and these guys use our money. Very nicely said. Yes, Rachna. Any questions?
So it was a beautiful presentation. And the way you have actually explained how biodiversity can be maintained and how the natural habitat has been preserved and everything has been done so beautifully without disturbing the natural environment. The whole presentation was very useful for students also. Definitely. And especially the case study, like we can follow it in many and we can actually conserve rainwater and natural sources of water, because natural sources of water are depleting these days. Long time back, recently I saw a presentation in which there were bowlies and people were reviving all the bowlies. And this is one very good gesture and a good way in which we can conserve the natural resources of water, whatever we have. Beautiful, sir.
I hope I'm able to trigger some questions from the students and give way to their imagination and also their responsibility. Okay, we as citizens of India have to make our country beautiful. We as citizens of India have to respect our natural heritage along with our cultural heritage. River provides a place of natural heritage. Ecology and ecological heritage is what we must conserve. So are there any more questions?
Yes, sir, there is a question from our student in the chat box. And
Yes.
it says, as a designer, how can we contribute in water conservation?
Excellent. That's an excellent question. As a designer, uh, see, in many areas in India, we have traditional knowledge and we don't respect this traditional knowledge. One of the very prominent activities who's supporting our activity is Dr. Rajendra Singh ji. Okay, he comes from Rajasthan. He's a Magsaysay awardee, and he has given his life to conserving water and with local knowledge. Okay, not building large dams. And I think I should encourage students to go to some of these sites. Go to rain deficient areas in Rajasthan. It is not so far away from you. Look at the conservation that is done. Simple earthen bunds slow down the flow of water. Give more time for the water to seep in. Okay. There are many structures that can put the water back into the soil. And those are very simple structure. For example, in my house, I studied water harvesting and then made two simple structures, which are 3 meters by 3 meters by 3 meter deep. Then we put some large stones, then some small stones, then gravel on top, which act as a filter of water.
As a rainwater harvesting pit.
Yeah, a simple rain harvesting pit. I have not even put any other filter from the pipeline because I'm using that as a recharge. So students, and these days, actually, a lot of information is available on the internet.
Basically, it is to increase the groundwater level and it's basically recharging the groundwater level.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
So I think each student, you can give a project that in your society, build a rainwater harvesting system. And when you design it yourself, the students will feel that that they have and actually build that system. I learned because I built it for my own house. Two different types I have done in the house. One is just a pit. Second is we had a bore well. So around the bore well, we built a recharge so that the water goes along the bore well and down.
So there is one more question from our side.
Yes.
It says, sir, how can we conserve rainwater at a residential level?
That is what. So in housing societies, now we are helping them to implement water harvesting, and all the rainwater that goes down, there are two ways. Okay, you filter it, store it in a tank, and use it. Okay, so this is the reuse, and that water can be used in the rain deficient months, but that requires to build a large storage capacity. Okay, but that many societies have started doing in Pune, and you can otherwise recharge into the ground. So both these options are possible. I know when I was doing my house, I went to a person in Ahmedabad who does not use any other water from outside. So he has very large tanks, and Ahmedabad has 1/3 the rain that what we have in today. And whole of the year, he sustains on the water that he has captured within those few 20, 25 days of rain, and recycle some of the soil water.
Yeah.
So recycling is one. First, you have to reduce your needs. So the same storage capacity can give you much larger coverage in terms of time.
Yes, sir. So there is one more question from our faculty in the chat box. Can you please answer that?
Okay, I'll look at the chat box.
Sir, it says, sir, I am working on a commercial kitchen in relation to biophilic design in my thesis. How can we keep this while designing a commercial design, when we are designing a commercial kitchen? How can we keep this topic in mind?
3 things you can do.
Ma'am is a PhD scholar. So she wanted to ask that. And she wants your guidance regarding that. What can be done when you do a commercial thesis, a commercial design basically for a kitchen?
Yeah, commercial design, we only look at money. Okay, we should stop doing that. Okay, we should find out how we are. Just a minute, there is somebody at the door.
Okay, sir.
Commercial design must, especially for a kitchen, we must look at the energy requirement. Okay, and one would strive to fulfill this energy requirement by using renewable energy. Okay, and there are many forms of renewable energy. For example, 2-3 places we have implemented schemes where we generate steam using solar energy and use that for cooking. So no fossil fuel is burned.
Yes.
Okay. Then when we clean utensils and when we clean all the dishes, how do we recycle that water in a commercial kitchen? And how do we use maximum efficiency in our stoves, in our cooking utensils? Is what I would look at in a commercial kitchen, so that my fuel requirement is reduced. Typically, if we calculate our energy requirement, if you look at our energy requirements for any human endeavor, okay, my guru in solar energy, he gives he expresses it very beautifully. He says 1/3 of our energy needs are such that we can avoid. So refuse. Okay. Yeah. Then the remaining remaining 2/3, out of that 1/3,
reduce
is we can increase our efficiency.
Yeah.
Okay. So that our reduction, so that 1/3 is reduced. Then whatever is remaining 1/3, we use natural resources or renewable energy.
Correct.
And that is why first reduction, reuse, and then generation using renewable energy. That way
basically we can focus on reduce, recycle, and refuse whatever is not desirable.
Refuse,
very beautifully
reduce,
said, sir.
Recycle, and then whatever little is left, that we regenerate. That we generate from natural resources. And our I'm
very
so
beautifully
happy.
Said.
You know, I got into solar energy because every time I visited Germany, and I used to visit every 3 months to look after some of our customers there, every time I went there, I used to see more and more rooftop installations.
Yeah, there are solar farms there, and
No, but even the rooftops.
yeah,
And I said, this country has only 120 days of sun, while my
yes,
country has 340 days of sun,
correct.
and we are letting it go waste.
Yeah, we
So
can
that was,
increase the area for solar farms. And
yeah.
one more thing,
No,
I
even
just
rooftop.
it just came
Rooftop,
to my mind. Yes, rooftop
Professor
is a very good
Rachana,
idea.
rooftop is the lowest hanging fruit.
Correct. So as a
Within our,
designer, as a facade designer, we can even have the facade with solar panels. There are
absolutely,
buildings.
absolutely. Those techniques are available.
Yeah. And one thing I just came in that came in my mind was when ma'am was asking about commercial kitchens, what we can do is the water which we use for washing vegetables and all, that can be used for organic farming. So that is
Yes,
one way
absolutely.
in which we can duplicate the use of water.
Correct.
Sir, I think there is another question in the. Okay. Very beautifully said, sir. Very beautifully depicted. Also, the presentation was too good, and it was so simple. The language was so simple that students could easily understand. I'm
Yes,
really
that is my emphasis.
overwhelmed by it.
When we use less jargon, we get the idea across. And the whole
Yes.
idea is to capture minds.
Actually,
So
it was
that,
a simulator. Yes.
yeah.
Thank you very much. That was amazing. I mean, the one thing I will take away is the new version of refuse, reduce, and renew. So the one third,
Yes.
one third. I think that's a really a key takeaway, and it's a very beautiful approach to it, and especially in architecture and interior design, Rachna ji. I mean, I hope your students are listening, and I
Yes.
will be designing based on these principles, because it is really as simple as that. As Mr.
Yes.
Mavalankar mentioned, and his entire presentation was so simple and so
Very simple and
way to communicate to a young person is through simple language. The minute it becomes complex, then you're just really fumbling between the words and the language and the grammatics of it. But it was wonderful. Thank you so much. Dr. Hariharan actually had to drop off. He had a flight to catch. So I just want to say thank you to all of you. Thank you very much for being here.
thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
And my address,
And thank
email
you from
address
all
and
the Manav
contact
Rachna
numbers
participants.
are with Dr. Hariharan. So anytime you have questions on renewable energy, on water restoration, river restoration, just shoot. And we would like to have some kind of cooperation so that your students can learn.
In
And I'm
fact, I
thanking that
wish,
they
yes,
Wonderful.
sir, I wish to call you as a guest sometime whenever you visit Faridabad or Delhi. Our university is there in Faridabad, and we have BSc Interior Design students and B Design students. So basically, for interiors and for design students, it is very important to learn all these concepts, and we would like to invite you in our college anytime you visit us.
Certainly. I would end by saying that I designed my house. So of course, architect made the drawings, but myself and my wife, so that we don't require any air conditioning in our house. And we do all the water harvesting. And now, last 12 years, our house has solar rooftop. So I don't require any energy from outside. And 3 years ago, I have taken a EV that also gets charged from my
Yeah.
rooftop. So
Oh,
my
wow.
carbon footprint
Okay.
has really
Beautiful.
shrunk.
Carbon footprint is very, very minuscule. Okay, wonderful.
Yes.
That's very inspiring. Thank you so much. And we will keep
And each one of us can do it. I did it so that, to set an example
Absolutely.
for people to follow.
And we will keep reaching out to you whenever we are having these conversations about water, which is very often. And I'm sure Professor Rachna will do the same. But thank you very much for taking out the time.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.